Please let me introduce our first presenter, Dr. David Pierce, who serves as the president of Stanford Health, one of the leads of the South. Who serves as the president of Stanford Health. Dr. Pierce leads the South Dakota-based integrated health system, one of the largest in the nation, with 43 hospitals and nearly 250 clinics in 9 states and 3 countries. Dr. Pierce?
Thank you. You know, it's an absolute pleasure to be up here to present this award. So I'm presenting the award for the Champion of Hope in Science and Technology Collaborations. And David Farzanbaum from the University of Pennsylvania is the recipient. But I'd just like to highlight a few things about him before I bring him up here. You know, he really is a tremendous role model for the rare disease community in that when he was in medical school, he was diagnosed with idiopathic multicentric Castleman disease, which basically has an uncontrollable immune system. He re-entered medical school and has dedicated his life and his career really to figuring this disease out. He's created an international network of collaborations which is making a significant impact in terms of drug development. Also, the team of investigators has really put together not just registries and clinical rating scales and the understanding of this disease, but has also partnered with Janssen Pharmaceuticals with the idea of developing more therapeutic interventions. He's also been listed in the Forbes magazine as one of the 30 under 30 to watch, which should indicate to you he's still very early in his career, so he's got a long ways to go, and I suspect that we'll be hearing much more about his career as things move forward. And as a former recipient of this award, I think he's really setting the bar very high now, because I think I've listed some of his achievements, but he's not only made an impact on his disease, which is so important for rare diseases, he's been successful in bringing clinical applications to this disease. But also he's bringing awareness, not just through his own personal connection to this disorder, but because of the successes that he's bringing. And this award will hopefully further his career and his aspirations, and I wish him all the best with respect to this. David.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you so much to Global Genes. What an incredible honor to be recognized by such a great organization and also to be recognized among so many incredible scientists around the world doing so much great work for rare diseases. Today, I really want to touch on 3 things. First, I want to recognize the incredible team effort that it's taken to make all the progress that we've done. Second, I want to share about our story of our team and the work we've done. And third, I want to tell you about how our collaborative approach has helped us to make incredible progress for the disease and, in fact, even change the treatment that I'm personally on. So I mentioned I'm accepting this on behalf of our team, and we've got a number of our board of directors members that are here today, an incredible board of directors that helps to lead and set the vision for our organization. We also have a 35-member leadership team made up of volunteers from around the country. Many are medical students, business school students that are all dedicated to Castleman disease, or trying to solve this disease. We have a scientific advisory board, 28 members from 8 different countries, all fighting to solve this disease. And of course, I have to accept this on behalf of my family, who have supported me through so much, and especially my wife, Caitlin, who's here with me today. Just as David shared, I'm a physician, a Castleman disease researcher at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm an advocate, and I think maybe most importantly, I'm a patient with Castleman disease. As David said, in my 3rd year of medical school, I went from being a healthy medical student, planning to become a clinical oncologist one day, to spending my next 7 months hospitalized in the intensive care unit at the University of Pennsylvania and other hospitals. I went from being at the top of my world, as happy as I could possibly be, to having multiple organ failure. Every single organ, liver, kidneys, bone marrow shut down. I had a retinal hemorrhage and went blind in my left eye. I gained 70 pounds of anasarca, 70 pounds of fluid in my body, and my doctors had no idea what it was that was killing me. Fortunately, I went on to have a lymph node biopsy and I got the diagnosis of idiopathic multicentric Castleman disease, a disease where the immune system becomes activated and attacks and shuts down vital organs. Castleman disease is about as rare or as common as ALS. The subtype that I have, multicentric Castleman disease, is more deadly than lymphoma. And unfortunately, we don't know what triggers this disease. So without an approved therapy, my doctors at the time tried the one off-label therapy they thought could work for me. When I didn't respond right away, my doctors encouraged my family to come in the room and say their final goodbyes to me, and to instruct my family to call in a priest to read my last rites to me. Fortunately, within about 24 hours of receiving the chemotherapy, my organs started to improve, and after about 3 more weeks, I was able to leave the hospital. Unfortunately, I had a relapse 4 weeks later, and I was back in the throes of fighting this disorder. This time I needed a 7-agent combination of chemotherapies to get my disease into remission, and a 7-week-long hospitalization. I remember the day that I was leaving the hospital, looking at my nurse and saying, I'm so happy that I'm finally able to go home. This has been so difficult for me. And I remember my dad, who had been with me every step of the way, turning to me and saying, what is this? I've been in the hospital for all these weeks. We've been in the hospital for all these weeks. And he was right. He was with me for every step of the way, just as you guys are with your family members. So I was able to go back to medical school and focus on rare disease research, thinking about how do you speed up the pace of progress. And in fact, I even published a case report on myself. But I didn't think that I needed to get involved in studying Castleman disease because I knew there were researchers around the world doing the work, and I trusted that we were moving as fast as we could. It wasn't until I relapsed a year later when I started looking into the field to see what was being done and where are we as a field. Unfortunately, no one was collaborating. We had a model for the disease that just didn't make sense, and there was no strategy for how we were going to figure this disease out. So at that point, I decided I wanted to establish something called the Castleman Disease Collaborative Network. And fortunately, there was an incredible organization that already existed called CARE, Castleman's Awareness and Research Effort, that invited me and our organization to merge with CARE to create an organization that would take a truly collaborative approach. We didn't want to take the more traditional approach of raising money and letting researchers decide how it should be spent. We wanted to come up with a new approach. And that approach was to first identify all the physicians and researchers worldwide conducting Castleman's research. Let them prioritize what research should be done. And then in our third step, recruiting the top physicians around the world to conduct our research. And we've been able to make some really, really exciting progress. In addition to building this model and taking this approach, we've also engaged and supported over 3,000 patients and loved ones around the U.S. And of course, this includes our youngest Castleman warrior, 3-year-old Katie in Dallas, our 25-year-old medical student Raj, and the parents of Elise, who was a 13-year-old girl who passed away last year battling Castleman disease. Now, working with these young people reminds me every single day what we have to do and what's ahead of us. And fortunately, it's that focus that's helped us to make so much progress. I mentioned that we had a model that didn't make sense for how the disease worked. Well, we flipped that model on its head. We used to think that lymph node tumors activated the immune system and shut down organs. But the research I did at Penn, we found that it's actually the activated immune system that causes the lymph node tumors to grow in the first place. And this is an important breakthrough because that actually changes the way that we treat this disorder. In 2014, siltuximab became the first ever FDA-approved therapy for Castleman disease, which was a huge win for our community and is helping patients all around the world. This framework for how we think about the disease has informed new therapies that I'm personally on, as well as opened an entire new field for us to consider immunosuppressive therapies for Castleman disease. And today I stand before you at 20 months since my last life-threatening relapse, the longest I've ever gone by 3 months. And today I have more hope than ever that we're going to take down this disease because I've got an incredible team working with me and we've got the right approach. I hope that after we figure out Castleman disease, we can share this approach with so many other rare diseases like that each one of you guys are battling. I want to close with just 4 things, 4 observations over the last few years. The first is to question everything. Just because something is done the way it is, or just because we have some idea for how we think things work, that doesn't mean that's the way it has to be done. Second, to my fellow patients, we must fight back against our diseases. If we don't do it, no one else will. And to my fellow physicians, we have to collaborate. There is no way that any one of us can do this on our own. And finally, to everyone here, life is short, and for some of us, it's shorter than it is for others. So make every second count. Thank you, guys.